Hey guys, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Yeah, the old clock says it's 5 o'clock. Beer 30. Let's go see what's in the fridge today. Hello everybody, welcome to Gregsbeerreviews today. Thanks a bunch for stopping by. Today's beer comes from Founders Brewing. This is their Underground Mountain Brown, 11.9%er. This was sent to me by beer brother Rico. Just got it today, put it in the fridge for about 45 minutes, and here we are. He says 11%, and actually it's 11.9% Imperial Brown Ale brewed with Sumatra coffee and aged in bourbon barrels located in a cage below Grand Rapids for a full year. It ought to have some big bourbon notes if they've bedded in the barrels for that long, guys. This is the barrel-aged version of the Sumatra Mountain Brown Ale. He said it was $16 for a 4-pack. They brewed this a couple years ago and was available only at the brewery on draft, and it finally made its way into bottles this year, bottled on 7/30/19, and today is 9/13/19. So fairly fresh beer. Hoping it's going to be a real pleasant experience. Founders does some really tasty beers, guys, and you've seen in the news here recently where they've been acquired by another brewery. Not AB InBev, but still, I'm not a fan of the breweries that sell out. Founders was pretty big to begin with and had a big distribution. I don't know why they needed to sell out to somebody, but it is what it is. We have no control over it. Untappd has it at 30 IBUs. Says Underground Mountain Brown is a harmonious drinking experience only achieved when their Imperial Brown Ale, earthy Sumatra coffee, and a year aging in the caves below Grand Rapids. Time immersed in oak creates layers of depth and complexity, a celebration of the barrel, the bean, and everything in between. So, that is all we need to talk about. We've got the IBUs, we've got the ABV, we've got the bottle on date. So, let's get it open and see what we got. And this isn't as cold as it usually is when I bring them out. I wanted to get to this one pretty quick. We're going to go straight down the center unless it starts producing a monster hit, which it looks like it is already, so we better ease off on that super aggressive pour. And the head's a lighter colored brown, sort of a deep khaki colored. A lot of these big heavier beers that are bourbon barrel aged has. But it is a brown, it's not a stout. Good 2 fingers of head on that pour. It is a fairly dark beer, but I can see some red ruby mahogany tinges on the bottom of the glass here, guys. Seems to be very well carbonated. Let's get it to the nose and see what we got. Big roastiness from the malt. A little bit of the bourbon, not as much as I was hoping for, being in the barrels for that long. Maybe a little caramel, toffee, molasses, black molasses. Maybe some of that bourbon notes be more apparent in the taste, and that it comes up to room temperature. And it's not really super cold as it normally is, like I said. It's only been in the refrigerator for about 45 minutes. Decent smell, not outstanding. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Rico. Thank you, my brother. I do appreciate it, sir. Nice coffee notes. And I was expecting that from the Sumatra coffee. That's usually off the chain coffee notes. But it's been in the barrel for a whole year, so sometimes those coffee notes dissipate while they're in the barrel that long. I'm not impressed with the bourbon notes at all, guys. If you're looking for big off-the-chain bourbon notes on a beer, this is not it. I'm a little disappointed in the bourbon notes that I'm getting on this beer. And especially since it's $16 for a 4-pack, which is not outrageous. But they tell it's been in the barrels for a whole year in the caves below Grand Rapids. So a little disappointed on that. The coffee's there, the roasted malt is there, but the bourbon notes are very subtle, guys. Well, let's sip on it, and that'll come up to room temperature, and we will come back and give it a grade. All right, guys, I'm back. Been sipping on it about an hour. A decent beer, guys. The coffee is there. It's a little subdued because it's been in the barrel for a year. The bourbon notes are very subtle. Very disappointed in how much bourbon notes I'm getting on this beer. I would probably not buy this beer, guys, even though it's a good beer. Alcohol is very well hidden for 11.9, almost 12%. Alcohol is well hidden, giving some caramel toffee, black molasses. But the bourbon notes are just too subdued. And I expected the coffee to be a little subdued, being in the barrels for that long. But I was expecting the bourbon notes to be off the chain, guys. It's a whole year in a bourbon barrel. So I was expecting the bourbon notes to be really impressive on this beer, and it's not. I probably would not buy this beer. I'm going to give it a good grade, but if you're looking for big bourbon notes and they're telling you that this has been in a bourbon barrel for a whole year, I have a problem with that, especially for what this costs. It's not super pricey, but when you see aged in bourbon barrels on a beer, you should get those big bourbon notes, and I am not on this. So it is what it is, guys. So with that being said, let me jump into the final chug. And even now, they set the room temperature. The bourbon notes are not there. They're very, very, very subdued. I would not buy this beer, guys. I would not. And I'm probably going to go against the grade on it because it's been aged in bourbon barrels for a year or two. Evidently it's had beer in those barrels before. That's all I can say. You should have a bigger bourbon presence than what I am getting on this beer. And I expected the coffee to be a little subdued, like I said, because it's been in those barrels for that long, but the bourbon notes are just not there. But it is a well-made beer because the alcohol is well hidden for almost a 12%er. But bourbon notes, nada. A tasty beer. To be honest with you guys, I'm definitely going to go against the grade on this because I'm expecting more bourbon notes. If they telling me it's been in bourbon barrels for a whole year, and I'm not getting. It's so subtle or subdued. I'm not getting it. You actually have to look for it to find it, and that doesn't impress me much. So this one would probably one I would leave on the shelf, guys. I'm sorry to say that because I am a big fan of Founders beers. They usually do it very, very well, but the bourbon notes are very lacking on this beer. Because it has the ABV and the bottle on date, I am going to get it to the A- scale. I could just easily give it a B+ because I am not impressed with this beer, with the bourbon notes that I'm getting on it. It is what it is, guys. There are better bourbon barrel aged beers out there. Now, if you wanted coffee and bourbon, you probably wouldn't want a beer that's been aged in any kind of barrel to get super big coffee notes, because coffee is just like hops. It fades over time, whether it's old or been aged in barrels, where the coffee is going to fade while it's sitting in those barrels. So 90 for me, guys, and I'm only giving it that grade because it's got the bottled on date and the ABV on the label. If it didn't have either one of those on there, it would be a B+ beer. And even though I enjoyed it, Enrico, my brother, I appreciate you sending it to me, this would probably not be something that I would purchase. The bourbon notes are just not there, guys. So with that being said, 90 for me, guys. Just barely into the A- category. Over to Untapped, they say 97. I could not disagree with that more. Untapped has it at 4.23. That is a little bit further into their A- range, almost into their A category. I'm more in agreement with that. It is an A- beer to me, but definitely not a solid A or an A+ beer because the bourbon notes are not there. So if you've had the Underground Mountain Brown, 10 years ago I may have thought this was a better beer than I think it is now, because I've had so many better bourbon tasting beers than this. And that may be what they wanted, guys. I mean, they may have not wanted the bourbon overpowering everything else in the beer. So the brewer makes that decision, but I would think a beer that they put in a bourbon barrel for a whole year would have more bourbon notes than this, unless it had beer in it before. So maybe that's what they were after. I don't know. But did impress me a whole lot, guys. Not something I would probably seek out or look for if I was looking for those big bourbon notes. So with that being said, if you've had the Underground Mountain Brown, the 2019 edition, let me know what you think. Till we meet again, let's go see what's in the fridge.